Well, Coach, I'm glad we got a 5-minute freebie here before these guys joined us. You got to hit the record button, note to the audience. So this is a great follow-up to the episode 1 of taking the big framework that we had last week and really getting down into it with the players, right? So much transition and movement within this game right now. The guy walks in your room, how are we going to get buy-in between the offense, defense, special teams, and build a foundation for long-term growth. So Coach James, I'll throw you a layup here and let you start talking about some of the players.
Yeah, so last week when we did the programmatic skills, transferable skills, and we talked about positional skills, that framework, I think, can be used and should be used to develop everything you do in your team, right? You give every little bucket memorable tags that kids can reference, whether they're in a meeting, reference to when they're on the field, or if they're at home watching film on their own. So we're talking about developing a unit, a player, offense, defense, or special teams. We would always break things down into the foundation of our team. And our foundation is built on being fundamentally sound, schematically competent, and situationally aware. And guys that have worked with me in the past and players that have played with me in the past are probably throwing up somewhere because they heard it way too much, right? But it's true, right? If you want to develop a team and you want to have a rhythm in the team and you want to have a thread through the team, establishing an identity and establishing a foundation is really critical. So to quickly just gloss over those three, when we're talking about being fundamentally sound as a team, we're talking about the Vince Lombardi thing. Can we tackle? Can we destruct blocks? Can we block? And can we hold on to the ball, or can we disrupt the ball? So tackling, block destruction, and ball disruption rolls off my tongue easier because I did it on defense for so much, right? Then we have our situational awareness, schematic awareness, and being schematically sound. So to bucket that, you're talking about, okay, do the students understand what we're trying to accomplish, right? So in being schematically competent, we tell the students, if you understand what we're trying to do, you should be able to learn it in a short period of time. If we're talking about the coaches, if you really understand what we're doing, you should be able to teach it in a short period of time. If we want a team that's going to be schematically competent, could they learn what we're doing in 6 days? So Bob Chesney has a great analogy he used when he was coaching over at South Virginia. He had to get a player to play linebacker in 6 days. And so he tested his theories in fire there, right? And he led a team into a tournament, and that player led the team in tackling. So the story goes, right? Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. It resonates with staff and players alike. That if we're schematically competent, we should be able to do what we do most within a short period of time. We would often say we want to be able to give you the opportunity to display your God-given talents by Saturday, even if you just showed up on Monday, right? So we would break schematic competence into what we'd say 80, 15, and 5. So 80% of what we do has to be able to be taught in that efficient manner, right? This is who we are. With myself over the last 15 years, I was heavily quarters-based team or a man team. Wasn't really in cover 3. I was very ignorant to cover 3. I'll have former staff members tell you, it was not my forte. Learned a lot, and I also learned how to bring it into what I did, so it would roll off my tongue. But so you're 80%. Can I teach this and can I learn it in 6 days? The 15 supports the 80. It's the change up. It's the playing of cover 3, even though that's not what we do, right? It's, man, where did that come from? It's going to do a 3 down, which in some years was 50% of what we did. And we were 4 down the other 50% of the time. So that 15% we would say supports the 80, right? The identity. And then the 5% was the curveball. It's the thing you would do. Maybe you pirated it off of film, right? You find something on Teach Tapes or wherever, and you say, I'm going to use that blitz this week. It's so foreign to what we do, but we're going to just drop it on them. It's going to be that 5% that they're just going to have to worry about the rest of the year, even though we know what to do. Someone who was great at that was Garrett Gillick. Garrett Gillick would find some great film. He would study the tapes and he would find the blitz and he would say, let's teach that. And it was very empowering because it was outside of my wheelhouse. But he did a wonderful job of making that 5 really stand out.
And Coach, I'm going to call back to that last week episode. You talked about, taking something foreign, right? Bringing it into your environment and making it a part of that programmatic language, right? So could you go a little bit further in there of hey, it might be foreign. Nobody's expecting it, but how do we make it ours, right? How do you make it relatable for that kid that's stepping in for the injured player or young guy that's taking a deeper role?
Yeah. So if you're going to develop a schematic, you're going to kind of take a leap schematically and you want it to fit into your 80. There's another layer in schematic competence that we would go with. And that's where we would say, hey, every gap and a bonus. Okay. Can we put something new in? Do they understand the run fit? Do they understand if they are tied into a gap or not tied into a gap? So if I'm playing man-to-man, I don't got no gap. But I'm the post player, right, in a middle close defense. Okay, what is my gap? Someone has to show up to be the extra guy. right? So how do you do that? How do you teach that? So we go from quarters where everyone's got a gap and we have bonus players and wherever else. We go to a man-free defense where we're gapped out, but we still have a bonus player out back or whatever it might be. So every gap and bonus. How are you fit and how are you true to the run game, right? We would say, all right, well, next, how do we want to align to this thing, right? So schematically, we got to get lined up, right? So we want to present a certain contour to the offense. So we're going to line up 3/2, 2/1, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to undress that contour for a change up. Then regardless of the scheme, what you do, we've got to relate to the receivers they have. So we say, find 3 strong, find 2 weak, find the stress of the defense, right? So usually number 3 strong or 2 weak, they might be in the core of the 2-back set. But once they start breaking the core, defensively, we have to move around. Well, if we're going to put in something new, if I understand what gap I have, or if I'm a bonus player, do I also understand how the movement of the pieces offensively are going to force me to relate to those gaps and change or any adjustments I might have to make, right?
Coach, I got to jump in here because you're hitting a nail on the head here, and there's teach tapes clips that are playing in my mind of, Jonathan Gannon at a press conference talking about there's a strength and a stress of every call, right? If I'm playing drop 8 and we're giving up explosives, that's a major issue, right? If we're calling cover 0 and there's an explosive, man, that's the cost of doing business sometimes, right? You can't have that issue flip. There's another great one with Robert Saleh talking to Jeff Ulbrich when he was in New York with the Jets and saying, hey, you got to rotate that stress around, right? If I'm the Mike in Tampa and I got to drop and carry 3, but I also got to fit, we talked about this before, right? An interior gap. We better roll that stress to somebody else and not just, hope that Demario Davis is going to CYA us on the sidelines. So had to call that out. There's some really good visuals I can add into this later with that. I got to put my special teams nerd hat on from your Holy Cross and, UNH days of Garrett McLaughlin and Drew Kane, guys that are very good in their own worlds. How did you pair that program language, head coach to defense, into that universal language that the whole staff's here into the program with special teams?
If a player can be fundamentally sound, right? You can put them against, quote unquote, on the varsity stage in one moment and find out whether they can do it or not. It's another way as an incubator where you can find if your language is efficient enough and carries over enough. Because if you're saying it on special teams, you got offensive and defensive players. Well, in whatever we're saying or however we're teaching, say it's in block destruction or block avoidance, or blocking as a whole, when that player goes back to his offensive position or his defensive position, are they hearing that same term? So if we were to say, hey, you want to go over the top on kickoff, well, on defense, when we needed to re-leverage the thing, we would say, you're going over the top. Right? We would, again, it's something we all use as coaches. That's like one of those no shit comments, right? Yeah, everyone says that. But again, how far can you take it? How far can you bring that language to each team member and each positional group? For example, if we're going to avoid a block, everyone that coaches football will say, hey, we're going to stick and dip. We're going to avoid the person in front of us. Well, receivers do the same thing. Defensive ends are sticking and dipping to get to the quarterback, and receivers are going to foot press and get vertical to stack their DB. Well, just think what I just did there. We're doing the same thing. I'm a defensive player. I'm going to stack this offensive lineman with a pass rush move. I'm a receiver. I'm going to stack my opponent, my DB, with a foot press or some move or whatever. Well, when you boil it down and you put it on film, it's the same thing. You're going to see them doing the same mechanics, both in their legs and their arms, their head actions, the bobs, the weaves. Drew Kane would say, put a little shampoo on it, like he's shaking shampoo, and he stole it from somewhere else, right? So going back to your question of how does it get woven into the team, well, special teams is the way, right? Because you're going to find out if I say stick and dip, if I say foot press, are my peer coaches, and it might be me myself, right? Am I saying that to the other groups as well, right? And if you do find that synergy, well, you're cooking with gas.
In this time of year, Coach, with summer and OTAs and these football 101 sessions, right? I was told once early in my career that nothing matters till it matters, and that kind of stuck with me for a long time. It's better to be prepared than it hit you in the face, right, in the moment. How did you guys breadcrumb that in, right? Whether it come from the head coach or the coordinators during these times where it is a heavy developmental period where you have time to digest this a little bit.
Yeah, I think it does have to come from the top, right? We talked about last week, leading up in an organization. It does have to come from the top. I believe that the head coach has to set the standard that we're going to use common language and common threads to make our time with us, with the students, efficient, right? Whether I was observing a high school yesterday where they have very limited time. Where in college we had a lot more time, and NFL has obviously a bunch more time. So coming from the top down goes a long way. And I think what just happened in our previous little exchange is the way you find out, right? And you find the moments, right? You hear a receivers coach talking about his drill or his install plan for preseason camp or for summer training. Let's say summer training is going to start in about a week or two for some of these teams, right? Kids will all come back on campus. Right, so, hey, you're going to get 15 minutes with the students. What are you doing today? We're working on blah. Right? Describe that to me. How do you teach that? And that head coach's vision, coordinator's vision, he should probably be thinking, okay, that action right there from that receiver is the same action that defensive end is going to do. That's the same action we're going to ask the kickoff team to do. That kickoff team goes over the top. He is doing it. He's going through the same mechanics. I then can pivot over to my defensive staff member and say, hey, are you saying the same thing? Now in high school, it might be the same guy, which is easy. But here, now we have two different people, the college and the NFL world, where I can say, are you saying it the same way?
Well, even better, Coach, you guys are in the ivory tower of football in the staff room, and you're able to verbalize it to each other, and you're playing these mental movies in your mind, right? That's the level 405 seminar in college. You go into that team room, this is Psych 105 now. You better have that example, right, of Justin Jefferson, of Dwight Freeney, right? All these different athletic movements of what's the difference of running the hoop, right? Get front to back, stat color, run the whole thing. But that kid, he's got every other problem in the world on his shoulders until he walks into that room and needs to close that off to get back on what you guys have been focusing on for the last 6 hours.
Yeah, and to that point, we have a great teaching tool. We laugh about it ourselves a lot as coaches over the years. Like I would go tell you to go do something or how to do it, and I'd have a word salad, very much like our conversations, right? I talk probably too much, and maybe I don't land it with the student. And I would find the students teaching each other, right? And that was a good little moment. They're teaching each other, the older leading the young. The one thing that they would love to do when they left the office is if they could go find somebody else doing it, not their teammate, not someone who did it at the school previously, to find it maybe somebody on another team doing that thing. And it was very uncomfortable at first as a coach to adopt that kind of teaching tool of bringing in videos of guys doing things in other places. But that's what the kids were doing. That's what they were going to YouTube. They were Googling things, right? So it falls so well into their learning modalities, right? They hear it from me, big word salad, can't really relate. Coach, the teammate, hey bud, come here. I'm going to lead from the front. I'm the captain, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Man, I love that player over on the Seahawks, whatever, right? I love that player in Oklahoma. And you see him doing the same thing.
Coach Matt Ryan said it to the Falcons, the rookie minicamp the other day. I'm looking for clips for this month. And, he said leadership has no age, right? You guys come in with all this free spirit and energy, and this 15-year vet, he might need that juice because it's been, it's Cam Hayward or whoever these types of people are that they do it every single year. They're at a different stage of their life. This guy can come in and bring some good energy for everybody. Sprinkle a little bit of that juice. So how do you foster that connection when you're not in the room, Coach, right? You get these guys for team meeting, unit meeting, walk through, practice. There's a whole nother 20 hours of the day of, everyone says we want to be the most connected team. How are you trying to meet the player where they're at, right? Whether that's for the culture, the fundamentals, any of the things we're talking about.
Well, we used to give them we'd give them like homework, right? And this was, we'd give things like, give us, hey, 2 bad plays, 2 good plays. So they'd go back and they'd watch the film of themselves. And they could define why that was good, why that was bad, right? Great way to find out, or is this kid does he know what to do? Does he know what it looks like? And then can he articulate that in our language? Or is he saying apples when I want him to say tomatoes, right? Another little homework we would have would be to go find somebody doing the thing, right? Maybe it is a pass rush. Maybe it is catching the ball on the goal line. Maybe it is extending, it's talking about situational awareness. One of the other pillars of our, one of the cornerstones of our foundation, right, is being situationally aware. Go find us a clip of somebody extending the ball over the goal line when they shouldn't, right? And that's a big coaching thing now. Everyone talks about it. I never extend the ball unless to win the game, or it's the final play of the game, right? Go find us an example of that. Kids would go find it on YouTube. They'd go find it wherever, right? And they bring it back or share it back on the Google Drive and wherever else, So those types of engagements are great to create connectivity with the team through quote unquote homework moments that whether you're a high school or college student keeps the lesson going, right, at their own pace and at their own time, right? So maybe you can't get to everything in your meeting, so you just give them a little bit of homework for the evening, and they bring that home to you,
So, Coach, I want to round this out. You mentioned the last part as situationally aware, right? We can do this till our eyes bleed on the computer. We stayed in the office till 1 a.m. That 17-year-old, he's the one doing it on the field. 22. I don't care if they've been here 5 or 6 years. Like Rob Sala said, everyone's going to blink at some point. It's about how fast they can process after that blink. How do you help bring that meeting room visual on the field of whether it's 2-minute defense, right? Whether it's something with personnel transitions of hurry field goal, right? We still got to get a good look on there. We ain't subbing because now we can have a penalty that gives them the game, right? So how did you guys foster some of those things, whether it be in summer or fall camp situationally?
So every moment got practiced, right? And we were trying to bucket them into, so we're saying, let's be situationally aware. Let's talk about must-run situations, okay? So we could go through the exercise, right? If I was to say, hey, what are they going to do on 3rd and 1? I say, hey, they're going to run the ball. What if they're on the goal line? What are they going to do? Both on the 1-inch line, what are they going to do? They're going to probably run the ball. If you're backed up, what if you're backed up? What are they going to do? They're going to probably run the ball out of there. All right, so we've got that. We've compartmentalized some 3 moments where we feel that they're going to run. And what are they going to run? They're going to run their best play, arguably. They're 80. They're going to show you what their identity is, right? They're going to show you that, hey, when we need it the most, we're running power, right? Whatever you do or don't, right? We're running inside zone, right? But when we need it the most, we're going to go back to what we do best, right? And then the 15 and the 5 off of it, right? The 15, maybe it's some type of different action. Maybe it's a 5, it's a total curveball for anything you've seen. However, those must-run situations come with some more layers, right? So, hey, in a must-run, never on one, maybe because you want to draw them off sides, right? A must-run, every run has a play action or RPO, right? You start to teach like that. So as you get into the situations of, say, we're backed up, which only happen maybe a few times a week, maybe a few times every other week, you find yourself in the moment taking the field and you say, hey, every run has action, anything but 1, right? They yell it out to you. And now you've got them situationally aware. And you say you call your cover 4, your base defense. Well, do we now know where our gaps are? Do we know where our bonus is coming from? Stress that we need to move around. And what do they do to attack what we are, right? And they have that all bridged together in that one single moment. Same thing with like a must pass situation. What are 3 situations where a team has to throw the ball? Maybe it is 2 minutes. So you can layer that coaching point to your must-pass situation. Maybe it's 3rd and 15. Are they going to run the ball? Probably not. They're going to throw the ball. Well, and what if they're backed up? Well, they're probably just going to get enough yards so they get the punt off, right? You start teaching situational football and layering it back into your schematic competence, and then you layer it back into your fundamentals.
And for all of this, Coach, it's an open book test, right? That's why the coach is there to help foster and point to those ideas so that you don't have to memorize the whole book, right? Georgia has a sign on the sideline. It says, Dejo, don't jump off sides. The ball's on the -1. What's the first thing they're going to do? Try to get you for a free 5 yards. They go back 6 inches. And Coach, I want to let you run off on this one too, is build each day, right? Philosophy, right? This is a foundational period in football programs across the country right now. How do you reinforce that one day at a time? And whether it's, now it's building your own business, right? And having this input with different staffs across the country, or even my world with the Teach Tapes clips of having that little sprinkle of reminder of you're not the only one going through this stuff, whether it's football or culture, philosophy, whatever it is. How do you do that built each day, in your world?
So I think that mindset of built each day really stems from that we can't accomplish all we want today. We can't get it all done today. It's going to take a year to attain a goal. As Bob would say, it's going to take a year to put a trophy in a trophy case, right? You can't win it all on a random Tuesday. But what I can do is be consistent each day with my attention to detail, my positive attitude, my urgency, right? I can work on maybe being fundamentally sound today. Maybe today I don't got it, right? Well, maybe all today I can do is watch some film. So I'm going to study the film of the situational stuff we just mentioned, and I'm going to become more situationally aware. What am I willing to do each day that works me towards that goal? And what is a very popular cliche now is we're not chasing perfection, we're chasing progression or progress, right? And if through Teach Tapes, right, great little snippets of things that I could quickly grab and or in my world, where I'm advising programs and students, what can we get done right now in a short moment that's going to work or lean towards success in the future, right? And that's kind of that's where that whole built each day kind of mindset came from.
It's the best, right? Whether you're on the grass or still finding a way to be involved, it's fun, right? Last thing I saw the other day, and it was Mike McDonald, coyly smiling just like I am, and the press was like, "Hey, you guys are gonna run it back? Like, how are we gonna do it this year?" He goes, "No, we've been very deliberate with our language as a team. Like, we've talked about it. We're gonna run it forward. We're running our process forward from where this point is. There's nothing about going back, right? We got to here. There's more out there. We're running it forward." And he kind of walked off the stage. So that'll be my mic drop moment for today. We'll be back next week and hopefully keep doing things the right way.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right, Coach. Thanks.